Longing for Jerusalem Season 1 has been sponsored by Mr. and Mrs. Isaac and Tiffany Naxon in honor of the Finding Holiness podcast. Part 7. Rav Asher Weiss quotes a remarkable story in his book. Once upon a time, the Sanzer Rav, the Divrei Chaim, told his Hasidim that the Bet HaMikdash was sitting in Shamayim, already completed. All it needed was the parochet, the curtain, and it could be revealed. One of the Hasidim, I imagine a bit of an outspoken one, could not contain himself. He shouted out his question, "So Rebbe, why don't you complete the parochet through your avodah so we can have the Bet HaMikdash?" The Divrei Chaim responded with anger, "I have made the parochet again and again, but each time I do, it is torn to shreds by averot." It's not just a 2,000-year-old memory of what once was that we are mourning. We are mourning the Bet HaMikdash that exists in Shamayim right now, whose parochet we keep ripping to shreds. Maybe we shouldn't expound the story, but I read an interesting take on the above story that it's probably not by accident that the parochet is the missing piece. It's with the parochet that the tragedy of Tisha B'Av really began. The Gemara in Masechet Gitin tells us that when Titus entered the Bet HaMikdash, he took a sword and stabbed it through the parochet, which miraculously began to bleed. When Tisha B'Av comes, if the Mikdash has not yet been built, and the day is not yet a day of Simcha, many synagogues at night remove the parochet from in front of the Aron Kodesh in the synagogues as a sign of mourning. Tikkun is a process that moves from the outside inward. A person may find, after a superficial spiritual examination, that he or she has certain flaws that need correcting. The process of teshuvah and fixing those flaws makes a person more sensitive, more attuned to the other defects that need to be worked on. And the process continues on a deeper level. Slowly, the layers of defensive posturing, the excuses, the plaque that has accumulated around the neshama are peeled back, until finally we are at the threshold of the most pnimiyut point that exists in every Jew, the Kodesh HaKodashim of the neshama. The gateway between that point, that Kodesh HaKodashim, and the rest of the person is the parochet, the curtain. What does the parochet look like? It is a wonderful tapestry that shows our love and for the neshama inside. Or maybe it's a ragged garment. What do we want it to look like? What is true for each individual is true for Klal Yisrael on a national level as well. The destruction began with our loss of autonomy, then our loss of Yerushalayim, then the walls of the Bet HaMikdash fell, then finally Titus entered the Kodesh HaKodashim and did what he did. Each step of physical destruction manifested the spiritual destruction that had eaten away at who we are. We have witnessed the beginnings of the reversal of that process, again moving from the outside inward. First, the restoration of autonomy, which was the establishment of the State of Israel, the reclamation of Yerushalayim, each step accompanied by a greater, flourishing revival of the Spirit. We have so much of what centuries of Jews only dreamed of. All we need is a final push, the restoration of that missing parochet.